we went down to Honduras and interviewed the interim leader, and the viewers are going to see that interview in a few minutes. But tell me, President Obama and Secretary of State Clinton have sided with the guy who got ousted.
Who was trying to violate the Constitution of his country.
Did they pick the wrong horse?
They picked the wrong horse. And the question is, who was at the State Department as the President of Honduras attempted to violate his Constitution, force the Constitution to be. There's one provision that says you can't run for more than a certain number of terms, and you can't change this part of the Constitution. And he was acting in a non-democratic fashion to abrogate that part of the Constitution, and rather than stepping in early and keeping him from doing it, we end up stepping in late after he has been forced out by a Supreme Court and the legislature and the military, who said you don't get to violate that part of the Constitution and turn yourself into a strongman.
So is it oops?
I think who was asleep at the State Department? This guy was problematic in the Bush years, and they had to deal with him. Somehow they let him get out of control the first of this year because nobody was paying attention to it.
Well, we're going to have the interview in a few moments with the new guy. Anyway, Carl, thank you.
You bet. Thanks, Red.
No other network is covering this. The president of Honduras has been arrested, exiled from Honduras, and sent to another country. Now, the United States demands that he be restored to the presidency. But did our government pick the wrong side on this one? You are going to Honduras next. Honduras interim leader talks only to you. Did President Obama and Secretary of State Clinton make a bad choice in telling Honduras to put former Honduran President Zelaya back in office? Did they get it right or wrong? We report, you decide, and we are taking you right into the middle of it. Now, here's what we know. On June 28th, at dawn, the then president of Honduras, Manuel Zelaya, was arrested by the Honduran military, put on a plane, and tossed out of the Honduras. Why? Well, according to reports, President Zelaya was planning to hold a referendum in an effort to change the Constitution of Honduras so that he could remain president past the end of his term. The Honduran Supreme Court told the president this was illegal and that the Honduran Constitution specifically forbids this. But President Zelaya ignored the Honduran Supreme Court and forged ahead with his plans for the referendum. Next, and at the order of the Honduran Supreme Court, the military went to the president's house, arrested him, and flew him out of the country. Then, Roberto Micheletti, who was the president of their Congress, was installed interim leader to hold that post until the November election. President Obama and Secretary of State Clinton are siding with President Zelaya, condemning the change of power, calling it illegal, calling it a coup. Now, the interim leader says it's not illegal, that the removal of Zelaya is required under the Honduran Constitution. Here's what we know. Article 239 of the Honduran Constitution reads as follows. No citizen who has already served as head of the executive branch can be president or vice president. Whoever violates this law or proposes its reform, as well as those who support such violation directly or indirectly, will immediately cease in his functions and will be unable to hold any public office for a period of 10 years. So, was the removal proper? Was the transfer of power legitimate? Interim leader Roberto Micheletti insists Honduran elections will go on as scheduled in November. The United States does not intend to recognize those election results. We went to Honduras, and interim leader Roberto Micheletti went on the record. Sir, nice to see you, and it is beautiful here.
This is a quiet country, and a happy country, and a beautiful places all over Honduras.
What happened last June? Because in the United States, we wake up one morning and find that you've put your president on a plane and booted him out of here.
He was not the president. The time we took him to send it to Costa Rica because he'd been doing a lot of stuff against our Constitution.
Now, as I understand it, and I don't know your Constitution or your law very well at all, but as I understand it, he wanted to have a national poll on June 28th to convene a national Congress to change the Constitution so that he could be president a second time.
This is against the law. In our country, nobody can be president. If he is president for one time, he never can rule for president again.
If you wanted to change the Constitution So that you could have 2 or 3 or 4 terms. How do you change the Honduras Constitution?
You cannot change the Constitution
Ever?
of Honduras, ever.
There's no way to amend it.
Since 1980 to 1982, the constituyente is who make the Constitution. And they thought someday they're going to be a big men who are going to try to change the rule in our country. It's why they support 2 or 3, 4 articles in the Constitution that is not allowed to be a president again.
Are you saying that he was a bad president or a crooked president?
Both.
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 Crook. He's a crook.
It's a crook. We can prove that.
Okay, how?
We can prove that. We have what he ordered to one of his ministers, to Secretary of State, to go to the bank, central bank, to subtract from the bank 40 million lempiras in cash.
How much is that in dollars? Any idea?
Well, $2 million.
Okay.
We're a poor country.
What did he do with it?
Nobody knows.
Does he have any defenders? Anyone saying it was wrong, he should still be president?
Yes.
Who? What kind of? I mean, what jobs? People holding
Our
what
best
type of?
friend, United States, been saying that he's supposed to come back.
Who's that best friend?
Well, the government of United States.
And so your view is that President Obama and Secretary Clinton don't have the full story. That's your view.
They don't know. I'm sure they don't know the true history.
Have you ever met President Obama or Secretary Clinton?
No. I admire them, but never in my life. One day I have a telephone call from the Mrs. Clinton.
What did she have to say?
No, she asked me to find out the way to return Mr. Zelaya the power.
What do you say?
No.
Well, since that call, the United States has cut off $31 million to this country.
Yes.
What do you think about that?
We have a commission, went to the United States to try to talk to the congressman to explain, but we find a big wall. They insist, and the OEA says we have a coup, a military coup, and it's not true. We are in the power, the civilian, we are in power. Are we going to go to the election the 29th of November?
Are you running?
No, I'm not.
So,
and I can't run anymore in my life, because if I am president for one day in this country, I cannot run anymore. If you find out what happened in Venezuela, you're going to find out what he was planning to do. Exactly. It was a copy from the thing that happened in Venezuela. Hugo Chavez, a dictator, how many years Hugo Chavez in the power, and he was planning to do the same thing.
Is he friendly with Chavez?
I think his brother.
They're like brothers?
Yeah, he like brothers.
Since June 28th, Zelaya has tried to get into this country, at least as far as I know, twice. What happened?
He can come over here and go to the Supreme Court or the judges and say, well, I'm here, you judge me. If I'm innocent, I can walk for this street free. But if I'm a corrupt man and I'm a thief or whatever, we're supposed to put him in jail. He tried to make martyrs, derechos humanos, civil rights. They come over here. The president of this commission was from Venezuela.
The one that came here last August?
Yes.
Well, because they had a report that there were human rights violations here.
Right.
One of the things that this commission said, this Human Rights Commission said, is that thousands were being detained since June 28th. Is that not true?
It's not true. They don't find nobody in the jails.
The way that the report reads is that you and your interim government are rounding up people, detaining them, and committing these human rights violations. But you say that you laugh at that.
Because it's not true.